I'm 32 and I'm an injured soldier from the Royal Air Force Regiment.
I play wheelchair rugby for Great Britain and London. I was Rio 2016 Paralympian.
I was blown up in Afghanistan in 2008 and lost a leg and some of my hearing and suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder.
The reason I'm in a wheelchair is I contracted meningitis when I was 19 years old.
Got involved with Set for Success last year and basically like the way that it helps young aspiring athletes and sports people to continue into sport, which is something I unfortunately didn't do.
So Set for Success was created really by Horsham Rotary Club in about 2009-2010 as a result really of the Olympic Games in London, because the Rotary in England said, well, we think every club in England should adopt an Olympic athlete and look after them for the thing. So we did. We looked after a swimmer, which was very good, a great time with him. And we thought, well, instead of just doing it once, why don't we do it every year? Why don't we sort of nurture young, talented, sporty children who live here? And that's what happened. And so that Set for Success became founded.
One of my students the other day, she emailed her friends some work and she replied to me, "Blimey sir, it's not 2007 you know." Maybe we need to work harder at our social media strategy and really get to grips with Facetune, Snapgram and UChat. Warming up here. The best way to demonstrate the breadth of our work is probably to throw some numbers at you. As I explained earlier, we're now in our 8th year. And this is our 7th presentation event, our 6th one at South Lodge. Our first was at the Capitol in Horsham, and at that event we gave just 6 awards. We've now made 146 awards to young people participating in 28 different sports. Thank you very much.
I'm going to give you a brief story about my journey and sort of what's happened to me and why I'm in a wheelchair and how I've sort of overcome that and tried to succeed in what I've chosen to do since then. What is meningitis? It's basically inflammation of the membranes that surround and protect the brain and spinal cords. I had something that's slightly different. It's a blood infection, and that's why I've got all the scarring and why I lost my legs and my finger on this hand. It meant that, sort of like a frostbite, all the blood in my body went back to protect my major organs and basically starved everything else that it deemed wasn't necessary to live. So that's sort of where I am today. And it affects anybody. It really does affect anybody. But these are sort of the 3 main groups, so babies, elderly, and those just going to university. So I would highly recommend getting the vaccine because it is free on the NHS and you don't have to end up in a wheelchair like me or worse, as I know some people have. This was me in June 2007. I was in a coma for 2.5 weeks and I was in hospital for a total of 2.5 years. And so the biggest thing for me is I'm quite a stubborn person and I had to hit my rock bottom before I could pick myself up. But that's the thing, is the human spirit is absolutely incredible. It will find a way to deal with things and it will find a way to come back stronger, overcome challenges, anything like that, because when you reach a tough point, best way I can describe it is when a baby's born, when they're born they cry because breathing is literally the worst thing that's ever happened to them. And that's sort of how you go through life. When you're a toddler and you fall down, you graze your knee, that is probably the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And it goes on like that. You have more challenging things happen to you in your life, and then you find different ways to beat them and to overcome them and to do all these things, because the human spirit just adapts. It learns to be better. It learns that that's not the end, I can keep going, And there are times when, yeah, you will feel like, God, why am I here? Why me? What was this? Why do I? But when you will find a way to overcome, and that's one of the biggest things I found is that the human spirit will battle through. And yeah, living is better than being dead. I've died twice. So. And things change. I'm in a wheelchair full time. But it's not all bad. I recovered. 2.5 years in hospital is a long time. I dropped half my body weight, but we did all sorts of things in my rehab. I even sort of flew a plane for maybe 10 seconds before the pilot thought that wasn't such a good idea. I went back to university. That was one of my main goals when coming out of hospital, was that I wanted to get back. I wanted to finish my degree. I went back to Coventry and I got a first in architectural technology. I had started playing wheelchair rugby at that point, but this was still my primary focus. I wanted to complete what I'd started before, and sort of that was the main goal. And I think that's really important to anyone that wants to achieve anything in life. Is set goals. They don't have to be massive goals. They have to be just little things. If you improve one thing every day that can make your life better tomorrow, then you will be going a hell of a long way to be an amazing person. And I found wheelchair rugby, and I've got a story about this, but I'll save that till the end. But yeah, this is one of the things that sort of helped me. I've got to travel the world. I know there's a lot that I still need to travel, but get around to it. I think at some point I'm going to Australia next year, so that's another bit of blue. But yeah, I've been lucky enough in sport that you do get to travel the world, and a lot of it is hotels and sports halls. But I've been to see Christ Redeemer, and I've been to the Grand Canyon, and all these like amazing places that I probably wouldn't have got to do if I wasn't playing sport. So I'm very grateful for that.
We now move on to a new part of this ceremony, which is the presentation of the Neilcott Trophy. I mentioned Neilcott earlier as one of our key sponsors. Neilcott have been awarded the contract to build the bridge to the new facilities at Broadbridge Heath Leisure Centre, and they've offered generous support to Set for Success as a key element to their community engagement programme. As a socially and environmentally responsible business, they continue to build essential facilities for communities, including schools, leisure facilities and hospitals. And as they're known for their rigorous ethical, professional and legal standards, we couldn't wish for a better partner to support our work. We do have two of our Set for Success patrons. So I'd like to invite onto stage, firstly, Mike Goody, an international swimmer and Invictus Games athlete who it was our pleasure to have as our guest last year. And to Jade Goody, Great Britain discus thrower, who is Jade Lally. His name's Goody. Do you know what? Yeah. It's not the marriage thing that bothers me, it's the other. But anyway. So, Jade Lally. Sorry, Jade. Great Britain discus thrower, who has recently learned has been selected to represent England at the Commonwealth Games next year. So, our winner. I spoke earlier about the level of achievements among the young people today. Our winner is Great British Champion at her chosen sport, and it was my privilege and pleasure to announce that the first winner of the Milcott Trophy is Izzy Hayes.
Well, I guess it's just lots of hard work. It is a lot of commitment, training like most nights every week. But yeah, just enjoyment, so it gets you where you want to be.
What was the highlight of your career?
Probably getting a senior cap with Wales, with the senior team, and then winning Young Player of the Year last year, so that was a pretty big highlight, yeah.
What do you do in your spare time?
Spare time? Well, in the spare time I do have. I've got to catch up on college work and just meet up with mates and things like that, so yeah.
Do you have enough time to get it all done?
Just about. You've got to be quite clever in how you use your time, but if you use it cleverly, you're alright, so yeah.
I'm a basketball player, so I train a lot and play games on the weekends.
What's the highlight of your career so far?
Last year, my team won the national championship in Manchester, where we competed in the Final Fours, so that was probably quite good.
And what award have you won today?
I won a funding for £300 for my basketball.